Hey guys, my name's Mike and I'd like to welcome you to the first video, which will hopefully become a few more videos documenting the restoration and build of my 1982 Toyota Corolla KE70 Sedan. So in this video I'll just hope to show you a few things on what I've done to the car so far and bring you up to speed on where I'm at the moment. So first and foremost, here she is. This is the shell. It's pretty stripped down at the moment. Up on axle stand so I can get all around. And I bought her a few years ago, about 6 years ago to be exact. As you can see on the rego card, 2011. When I bought her, she was warranted and registered and went really well actually. Had the 4K engine with the K40 gearbox. And probably my only regret is that I didn't keep her on the road for long enough to really enjoy it in its standard form. So before we moved into this place, I was in a smaller shed, so I carried out the majority of the work on the engine. So the engine's about 90% done, I'd say. Just a few bits and pieces to tidy up. It's a Toyota 4AGE 16 valve small port engine out of a front wheel drive Toyota Corolla, and I've converted into rear wheel drive configuration. So I've fitted the individual throttle body adapter manifold, silver top ITBs and 50mm trumpets. Gave them a good clean up, port matched the head and the inlet manifold so it's got a nice smooth transition right from the trumpets all the way through to the cylinder head. A couple of things I've done or had done. Got a 4AGZE cam angle sensor. Had a friend of mine make up Dizzy Cap high tension lead blank off plate. So I'll be using coilover plugs with an aftermarket ECU, most probably a Link G4 Atom, to send the ignition signal as well as sequential injection. Done a bit of port matching, so again a bit of port smoothing to the exhaust ports. Fitted the rear wheel drive rear head water outlet. Fitted up some new zinc plated water lines that go to the back of the water pump, and I've just looped off the water lines that usually go to the inlet manifold to the idle up valve, which won't be required for this. So like I said, it's about 90% done, just a few more bits and pieces to sort out. I haven't painted the rocker covers yet because I'm planning on painting those the same colour as the car, which would look pretty cool and tie everything in together. So I'll just show you underneath the car. Slide on in here. So the latest project is the gearbox mount. You can see. So it's a custom mount for the J160 6-speed gearbox that I'm using out of a Toyota Corolla RS200 from behind a 3SGE beams engine. So I've picked up the original gearbox crossmember mount points, just extended a couple of pieces of angle iron rearwards, and then MIG welded a flat plate, all one piece, bent up to fit the rubber mount to. And I'm pretty happy with the positioning of it. The gearbox is in pretty much the highest position it can be without fouling on the top of the transmission tunnel. And the gearbox mount is in a no load position, so that just means that the mount isn't twisted or rotated from a neutral position, so it should extend the life of the rubber. While we're down here as well, I'll just show you the custom linkage that I've made. So I've had to move the shifter forwards for obvious reasons, otherwise I'll be going straight up into the sheet metal. So I've just used parts from the original shift linkage and then extended it forward, so can't really see too well, but right up the front there is the cup which collects the gear shift lever lower bushing, and I'll show you the housing, gear lever housing that I've made up on the top in a sec. Just on the weekend I've removed the rear diff, so that's no longer in there, and that's in preparation of fitting the F-Series, Toyota F-Series rear diff, which I plan on fitting an Altezza Torsen LSD to. So those parts are all right here. So I've just cleaned everything up, cleaned all the grease and oil off them. That's the Torsen LSD head right there. 4.3 to 1 ratio cram wheel with its matching pinion gear, and the solid rear axle housing and all the parts. So it's really cool. These diff heads, the centres I should say, fit quite nicely into the diff carrier, and I should be able to adjust everything up to within spec. So in the engine bay at the moment I've got a dummy block which I sourced from a spare black top 20 valve 4AGE engine, and I bolted that up to an SQ Engineering sandwich plate or adapter plate. So basically what that plate does is bolts to the back of the 4A block, and that allows you to bolt the J160 gearbox to the adapter plate. So effectively you've got a 4AGE with a Toyota J160 6-speed behind it. And I've done a little bit of research and been told from a few people that the gear ratios and the match of that to the 4AGE and vice versa with the right final drive produce some pretty good results. So we will see how that goes when she's up and running. Just on that adapter plate, it's such an awesome piece of gear. It comes with a really detailed 4 or 5 page instruction manual, all the parts, all the blanking plates, all the fasteners, a spigot bearing extension with double row spigot bearing, a custom thrust bearing carrier, and then you just use the standard clutch fork and clutch retaining spring to hold it all together. So I was really impressed with it. So over here we've got the old diff, so standard KE70 diff. Compared to the F-Series diff, it's quite a lot smaller, as you can see from the axles. So these are the axles from the F-Series diff, and they are quite substantial. Decent bearings. These are also 5 stud, so I'll have them re-drilled to the correct stud pattern for the wheels I'm using, which are these here, SSR Longchamps, 14 inch, 2 of them are 7 inch wide, 2 of them are 6.5 inch wide. So I'll get the 6.5s widened to about 8 inch and have a 1 inch stagger between the fronts and the rears. This is pretty simple to pull out, as those that are pretty savvy with removing car parts will know. Not too many issues. The F-Series diff housing is in my workplace at the moment, ready to be tidied up and brought home to mock up to suss out the right width. And one of the parts that I'll need for that job are the brakes. So I've ended up going with some AE101 Levin rear brakes, which actually just arrived today. So these are second-hand brakes, single pot rear caliper with handbrake cables that face the right direction for what I need. So I'll end up tidying these up and using them as part of the diff mock-up before I get it all ready to go. And finally, inside the car, she's a bit barren at the moment. You can see here the tunnel where I had to slightly massage the underside with a BFH to get the gearbox bell housing to fit, but it turned out really well. There's no splits or punctures or dents, tears or rips in the sheet metal. The sound deadening is chipped away, but that'll be fine, I'll deal with that later. And the gear lever here, as I said earlier, was in the wrong spot. Usually comes out about here, so I would have needed to have cut the sheet metal and potentially the support beam. But what I ended up doing, along with the linkage which I used to move the bottom of the gear lever bushing forwards, I mocked up a prototype here out of a few pieces of plywood. So I glued about 6 or 7 pieces of plywood together and then cut them down with an oscillating tool to get the right shape, and mocked up the gear lever. So it's a little bit broken at the moment because I've been manhandling it, but effectively it shifts the gear lever forwards and operates really well. So I'm actually having a 3D printed model made up at the moment, which I'll then finalize, make sure that's good to go, and I'll have a final piece made up out of a hard block of nylon or a piece of billet aluminium, and we'll see how that turns out. So yeah, that's the progress so far. It's a little bit depressing cramming 6 years worth of work into a 10 or 15 minute video, but hopefully they'll keep me honest and I'll try and punch them out as often as I can. I'm trying to do as much work on the car as possible when I get some spare time, because at the end of the day it's not going to build itself and the faster I can work and complete it, the sooner I can enjoy it on the road, and that's the goal. So yeah, comment, subscribe, and hopefully I'll have a few more videos out for you in the not too distant future. Cheers, catch you later.